Okay, we are actually inside the tomb of Jesus right now, which is so exceptional not to have a line.
Slab of marble on the top of what's believed to be Jesus' tomb has just been removed, and archaeologists are now analysing what's underneath it.
For centuries, no one dared touch it, the sacred tomb believed to hold the body of Jesus Christ. Sealed in mystery, it stood untouched beneath layers of history. But when experts finally opened it for the first time, what they uncovered stunned the world. Was it proof of a miracle or something even more unbelievable? The truth will leave you speechless.
We never in our life imagined that would reveal the sides of the original cave that surrounded the tomb.
For centuries, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem stood as a sacred beacon to millions who believed it to be the very site of Jesus Christ's burial and resurrection. Yet beneath the layers of history, stone, and devotion, the truth of what actually lay beneath the shrine remained a mystery. That changed on October 26, 2016. It was on this day that a team of conservation experts and archaeologists began a restoration project unlike any other. Their mission was simple on the surface, to stabilize the ancient shrine known as the Edicule. But what unfolded was far from ordinary. The tomb had been sealed since at least the year 1555. Some believe the closure may have occurred even earlier. Over time, protective layers had been added to prevent pilgrims from taking relics, to preserve the sanctity of the site, and to shield it from fire, invasions, and earthquakes. But with the structure weakening and the walls showing signs of collapse, the need to examine the tomb beneath the marble slab had become urgent. As the first layer of creamy marble was carefully lifted, scientists held their breath. Beneath the surface lay a stone platform, unseen by any human eye for nearly 5 centuries. Ground-penetrating radar had previously indicated that the limestone cave walls behind the slab were still intact, rising vertically behind the tomb space. That scan gave hope, but nothing could compare to what the team was about to witness. The scene was tense, yet reverent. Religious leaders from the Greek Orthodox, Armenian Apostolic, and Roman Catholic traditions stood by. Under the glow of artificial construction lights, monks and priests quietly observed every motion. In that moment, it wasn't just archaeology at work. It was faith, history, and science converging. As dust swirled into the air and stones shifted, centuries seemed to melt away. The tomb had not been empty, but neither had it revealed all its secrets. A layer of rubble covered the stone surface, remnants of past restorations and forgotten time. No bones or objects were visible, but what had been uncovered was far more profound. It was a glimpse into a place that had lived in the hearts and prayers of believers for generations. Those who entered first walked out in silence, some smiling gently, some visibly moved. Even the most seasoned researchers were not immune to the weight of the moment. Though trained in data and documentation, their hands trembled as they brushed away the centuries. What was being revealed wasn't just stone. It was the core of a belief that had shaped civilizations. And while no final conclusion could yet be drawn, this unveiling marked a historical and spiritual turning point. But no one expected what they would find buried under centuries of dust and stone. Once the outer marble lid was removed, the team was expecting to find a flat surface, or perhaps the limestone burial bed immediately beneath it. Instead, they encountered an unexpected layer of debris, loose material likely gathered over centuries of structural changes and damage. Carefully clearing this rubble, the team found something no one had anticipated: a second slab of marble positioned directly underneath.
That was a surprise, When we opened the tomb and we saw the engraved cross, we said this might be a cross of the era of the Crusaders.
This newly uncovered slab was noticeably different from the first. While the outer lid was smooth and creamy white, this one was gray in color and more roughly finished. What stood out most was a simple cross carved into its center. This engraving was not decorative in the modern sense, but was clearly a religious marking. Experts believe the cross was etched during the time of the Crusades, possibly by Christian pilgrims or clergy in the 12th to 14th centuries who held the site in deep religious significance. The discovery of this gray slab added a new layer of historical context to the site. Its presence suggested that medieval visitors not only honored the location, but also left behind visible signs of their devotion. It also provided a physical connection to the centuries-long tradition of Christian worship at this tomb, supporting historical accounts that the site had been continuously venerated. Further scientific analysis provided additional insight. Mortar samples taken from surrounding areas were tested and found to date back to the mid-4th century. This aligns with the era of Emperor Constantine, who is credited with officially recognizing Christianity in the Roman Empire and initiating the construction of many early Christian sites. His mother, Helena, is said to have traveled to Jerusalem in search of holy locations and relics, reportedly identifying the site now known as the Church of the Holy Sepulchre as the place of Jesus' burial. The presence of both crusader-era elements and 4th century construction materials strengthens the belief that the site was consistently identified and preserved across different periods. This continuity is important from both an archaeological and historical perspective. It indicates that despite centuries of damage, rebuilding, and occasional uncertainty, the tomb's location was not arbitrarily chosen in later years, but may indeed reflect a long-standing tradition of its authenticity. Frederick Hebert, the lead archaeologist from National Geographic, acknowledged that the second marble slab had not been expected. His team had conducted imaging scans and historical reviews, but this feature had gone undocumented in modern times. He described the find as surprising and said it required further study to understand how and when it was placed. This part of the excavation revealed how layers of history could remain hidden, even in sites that have been studied and visited for centuries. It also demonstrated how physical evidence, such as carvings and construction materials, can support and clarify long-held traditions and beliefs. And just when they thought the surprises were over, something even more sacred came into view. After more than 2 full days of careful and continuous work, the restoration team finally reached what many believe to be the central feature of the tomb. Beneath layers of marble, debris, and a hidden crusader-era slab, the original limestone burial shelf was revealed. This rock surface is considered by tradition to be the place where Jesus Christ's body was laid following the crucifixion. The moment held significance for both scientific and religious communities, as it marked the first time in centuries that this surface had been seen by human eyes. The team approached this phase with caution. Every movement was documented, every stone analyzed. The goal was to preserve the integrity of the site while uncovering what had remained hidden since at least the 16th century. Over time, multiple layers had been added to protect the tomb, and while these coverings served their purpose, they also concealed its historical and archaeological context. By removing these additions step by step, the team was able to expose the original rock shelf, which remained intact despite the many reconstructions and environmental pressures the church had endured. Although no bones, personal items, or artifacts were found within the burial space, the importance of the limestone shelf cannot be overstated. Its condition and location provide important clues about the continuity of the tomb's structure. Many sections of the Church of the Holy Sepulchre had been rebuilt after damage from natural disasters, fire, and conflict. Because of this, there had always been some uncertainty about whether the current shrine stood in the same exact place as the original tomb. The limestone shelf, along with surrounding cave walls, served as visual confirmation that the core burial chamber had remained in the same position through each phase of construction and repair. One of the most symbolic moments during the excavation occurred when religious leaders were allowed to enter the exposed tomb before anyone else. Representatives from the Greek Orthodox, Armenian Apostolic, and Roman Catholic churches, who share responsibility for maintaining the site, were given the first opportunity to witness the uncovered burial shelf. Their reactions were described as joyful and deeply moved. Although no physical relics were present, the moment itself held profound spiritual meaning. The presence of the original rock was enough to reaffirm the site's sacred identity in their eyes. The limestone shelf also provided archaeologists with rare data about early Christian burial practices and architectural methods. By studying the shelf's position, size, and condition, researchers were able to compare it with other tombs from the same period, gaining insights into how early Christians honored their dead. The smoothness and alignment of the surface further suggested it had been deliberately prepared, supporting the belief that it served a significant purpose in the original burial. But how did they even get permission to open this sacred site in the first place? The process that eventually led to the opening of the tomb inside the Church of the Holy Sepulchre was not just an archaeological effort, it was, in many ways, a diplomatic and religious milestone. The site is jointly overseen by three major Christian communities: the Greek Orthodox, Armenian Apostolic, and Roman Catholic churches. Each of these groups has its own clergy, traditions, and responsibilities within the church. To preserve peace among them, a system known as the status quo was established in the 19th century, formalizing how space and duties are shared. This agreement remains in place today and requires that any alterations or restorations be approved unanimously by all three communities. Negotiations to access and restore the tomb began as early as 1959. However, reaching a consensus among the three custodians proved to be extremely difficult. Disagreements, delays, and concerns over historical preservation often brought progress to a halt. As a result, even simple changes, such as adjusting the placement of candles or cleaning specific areas, could take years to approve. The tomb itself remained sealed and untouched during this period of prolonged negotiation. One of the most unusual and symbolic features that reflects this delicate balance is the ladder positioned on a ledge above the church's main entrance. This wooden ladder has remained unmoved for over 240 years. No one dares to relocate it without collective agreement, making it a powerful visual metaphor for the strict limitations imposed by the status quo. It also reflects how deeply tradition and control are embedded in the daily life of the church. Another fascinating element of this complex arrangement involves the responsibility for opening and closing the church each day. That duty does not fall to any of the Christian denominations. Instead, a Muslim family has held the key to the church for generations. Each morning, a representative of this family arrives to unlock the doors, allowing access for pilgrims and clergy. This tradition dates back to the era of the Ottoman Empire and was intended to prevent conflict among the Christian groups by placing the control of the entrance in neutral hands. The practice has continued uninterrupted for centuries and is respected by all parties involved. After years of standstill, a turning point came in 2015 when the leaders of the three churches finally agreed that restoration work could begin. Structural assessments had shown that the shrine enclosing the tomb was in serious danger of collapsing. Faced with the possibility of losing the site altogether, the religious authorities set aside their differences and gave the green light for the conservation effort. The decision to grant access to the tomb itself, sealed for hundreds of years, was a historic development that required trust, coordination, and mutual respect. This agreement allowed the archaeological team to begin the first physical exploration of the tomb in centuries. It was a rare instance of unity across traditions and faiths, made even more significant by the decades it took to achieve. With time ticking fast, the team rushed to uncover what centuries had buried. Here's what they found. Once the religious authorities granted access, the team of conservators and researchers faced a tight and inflexible schedule. With thousands of visitors entering the Church of the Holy Sepulchre daily, work inside the sacred edicule had to be completed quickly. The team was given only 60 hours to carry out their tasks. Within that brief period, 35 specialists worked continuously to uncover, examine, and document the interior of the tomb before it had to be resealed and protected once again. To maximize the limited time, the team used a variety of advanced tools. Ground-penetrating radar was employed to scan the underlying structure. Thermographic imaging helped detect temperature variations that indicated hidden materials or gaps. Laser mapping allowed for the creation of highly detailed 3D models of the tomb's features. These methods ensured that, even if physical items were not removed, the visual and structural information would be preserved for future research and public education. Although the excavation did not produce bones or artifacts, the results were still valuable. The project generated an extensive collection of digital data, which is now being used to build a virtual reconstruction of the tomb. This digital model will make the site accessible for academic analysis and educational experiences without disrupting the physical space. The absence of material relics did not diminish the significance of the find. Instead, the evidence collected confirmed the structural consistency of the tomb and opened new possibilities for interpreting its history. Despite the impressive use of modern technology, the central question remains unresolved. Was this truly the burial place of Jesus of Nazareth? Scientific investigation can confirm the tomb's age, structure, and alignment with ancient traditions, but it cannot prove identity. The matter ultimately lies in belief, not evidence. As with many historical sites of spiritual importance, faith continues to play the deciding role in how people interpret what was found. More recently, further archaeological efforts between 2022 and 2025 uncovered remains of ancient olive and grape vines in the surrounding area. These plant remains were dated to around 2,000 years ago. Their presence supports the description in the Gospel of John, which states that there was a garden near the place of Jesus' burial. This discovery adds an environmental dimension to the story, suggesting that the tomb existed in a garden-like setting during the Roman period. It also aligns with the Gospel account that places the burial site in a garden, strengthening the textual and archaeological correlation. The broader historical context is also significant. The area went through several transformations over time. Originally part of an Iron Age quarry, the space later became a garden, then a cemetery, and eventually a Christian shrine. Each phase added new meaning to the location, embedding it deeper into the collective memory of faith communities. After all this, do you believe this really was the tomb of Christ? Or is that a truth only your heart can answer? Share your thoughts in the comments,